Finally today, Gadget Review Thursday, bunch of reviews, actually, of one single device, a new one, the Rabbit R1. Bunch of folks got their hands on them, and the consensus seems to be it's a fun and funky AI device that feels pretty nice and does a solid job with basic AI questions, but the Rabbithole app is maybe a bit unfinished. Let's start with David Pierce in The Verge. From a hardware perspective, the R1 screams kind of meh Android phone. Here are the salient specs. It's about 3 inches tall and wide and half an inch thick. It weighs 115 grams, which is about 2/3 as much as the iPhone 15. It has a 2.88-inch screen, runs on a 2.3 gigahertz MediaTek MT6765 processor, and has 128 gigs of storage and 4 gigs of RAM. It has a speaker on the back, 2 mics on the top, and a SIM card slot on the right side next to the USB-C charging port. It only comes in one color, a hue Rabbit calls leuchtorange, but is often known as brilliant orange or luminous orange. It's definitely orange, and it's definitely luminous. At this point, the best way I can describe the R1 is like a Picasso painting of a smartphone. It has most of the same parts, just laid out really differently. Instead of sitting on top or in the back, the R1's camera sits in a cutout space on the right side of the device where it can spin its lens to face both toward and away from you. After spending a few hours playing with the device, I have to say it's pretty nice, not luxurious or even particularly high-end, just silly and fun. Where Humane's AI pin feels like a carefully sculpted metal gem, the R1 feels like an old-school MP3 player crossed with a fidget spinner. The wheel spins a little stiffly for my taste, but smoothly enough. The screen is a little fuzzy, but fine, and the main action button feels satisfying to thump on. End quote. Here's Sherilyn Lowe in Engadget. It's definitely cute, designed by Teenage Engineering, which has put its design talents to use on the Playdate, as well as Nothing's most recent phones, as well as music gadgets. Like all those things, it combines a retro-futuristic aesthetic with solid build quality, shiny surfaces, glass and metal accents, end quote. Brian Heater in TechCrunch, quote, "You interact exclusively with the onboard operating system. This can, however, be connected to other accounts, including Spotify, Uber, Midjourney, and DoorDash. The system can take voice recordings and do bidirectional translations. The system can also gain environmental context via the onboard camera. Among the first tests I threw at it was offering a description of my bookshelf. I pointed the camera at a row of 4 hardcovers, Moby Dick by Herman Melville, The Barbary Coast by Herbert Asbury, Understanding Media by Marshall McLuhan, and Dodsworth by Sinclair Lewis. It universally had difficulty with the last book, understandably, as it was the least clear of the group. It largely spotted and understood what it was seeing with Moby Dick, calling it a classic and sometimes offering a brief synopsis. It recognized the middle 2 books 50 to 75% of the time. It also attempted to offer some context as to the curatorial choices and sometimes went out on a limb to complement said curation. Having only played around with the R1 for a few hours, I can definitely tell you that it's a more accessible device than the Humane Pin, courtesy of the touchscreen and price. It doesn't solve the cultural screen obsession Humane is interested in, nor does it seem to be shooting for such grandiose ambitions in the first place. Rather, it's a beautifully designed product that offers a compelling insight into where things may be headed. Something worth noting for all of these early-stage write-ups is that these sorts of devices are designed to improve and customize results the more you use them. I'm writing this after having only picked up the device last night. I'm going to send it off to Devin for a more in-depth write-up. End quote. But back to David Pierce, quote, "Almost immediately I started running into stuff the R1 just can't do. It can't send emails or make spreadsheets, though Liu has been demoing both for months. Rabbithole is woefully unfinished too, to the point I was trying to tap around on my phone and it was instead moving a cursor around a half second after every tap. That's a good reminder that the whole thing is running on a virtual machine storing all your apps and credentials, which still gives me security-related pause. There's still an awful lot the R1 can't do and a lot I have left to test. I'm particularly curious about its battery life, its ability to work with a bad connection, whether it heats up over time, and how it handles more complex tasks than just looking up information and ordering chicken nuggets. But so far, this thing seems like it's trying to be less like a smartphone killer and more like the beginnings of a useful companion. That's probably as ambitious as it makes sense to be right now," end quote.